Now that we've defined anatomy and physiology and introduced you to the structure of the course, or a little bit about the structure of the course, let's go into the subdivisions of anatomy and the subdivisions of physiology in this next video sequence. Now, it's not my practice to read to you slides, and so I'm not going to read this to you. I assume that by the time you take a college course that you're perfectly capable of reading. But I do want to hit some of the highlights of these slides and talk a little bit about the subdivisions of anatomy. So we have, for example, gross anatomy. Some of you may have taken a gross anatomy class or know about a gross anatomy class or seen the movie from the 80s called Gross Anatomy. And gross anatomy might be called that because it's disgusting and it smells bad. But in reality, gross anatomy is called that because it deals with the things that you can see without a microscope, things that you can see with the naked eye. That's what we mean by at the gross level or gross anatomy. That's contrasted to histology, which another name for is microscopic anatomy. That shows you the microscopic structure of tissues by definition, things that you can't see with the naked eye. We'll discuss gross anatomy at many points in the course. Histology will be something that we'll begin to cover when we look at cell biology, which is another subdivision of anatomy. We'll start doing that in Module 4 and Module 5, and then in Module 7, we'll look at the microscopic structure of specific tissues. Embryology and developmental biology are related fields of anatomy that look at how structures develop. We're only going to touch on those in this course fairly briefly. Similarly with radiographic anatomy, because many of you are going into radiographic specialties, radiographic allied health specialties, then we'll cover a little bit of radiographic anatomy. We'll actually do that starting in this module in Module 1. Pathologic anatomy is looking typically through a microscope, but also at the gross level and looking at the structural changes that are involved in disease. These subdivisions of anatomy are also shown in Table 1.1 from your Tortora and Derrickson textbook, which you should have as a part of this course. The subdivisions of physiology are shown on this slide. Again, not something that I'm going to read to you, but I will hit some of the high points. Notice that because we're studying physiology, which is the study of function, that we're grouping things together into functional system. For example, we have the functional system that moves blood around. That's the cardiovascular system, and so that studies the heart and blood vessels. Or we might be looking at the defense mechanisms of the body, the way that the body defends itself against invaders. That system, that functional system, would be immunology, or the study of that functional system would be immunology. If we want to understand how the kidneys manage and excrete waste, then we do that in renal physiology. And some of you may take a course called Pathophysiology. It's Health Sciences 2230, Introductory Pathophysiology. And in that course, we'll spend an entire semester looking at the functional changes that are associated with the body getting older and the body in disease. Again, in Table 1.1 of your Tortora and Derrickson textbook, you have a table listing the subdivisions of physiology that you saw on the previous slide.